motion by Helmut.
Welcome to Minutes by Minute. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kennedy.
And we're here to talk about what goes on in the village, the township. You know, those government people that make laws and regulations that affect you out there.
That's right, Elgin. And whether you live in the village of Oxford or the village of Leonard, Addison Township or Oxford Township, these are the people that you went and elected and will get that opportunity again very soon. And the committees and the commissions that make decisions that directly affect you, whether you chose to go to that important meeting or not, and the result can be a taxing situation.
It could be, or it could be more humorous than even tax.
Well, not if you're taxed.
You can bubble from the bottom to the top, and then you can skim it off, and there it is, humor.
And its little relative.
Rumor.
Rumor.
And one of us makes more rumors than the other, and that would be this guy over here.
Not.
Says he. Okay, we're going to talk about a couple of meetings that went on. One is with the NOTA. Now, we haven't covered NOTA in a long time. You know what NOTA stands for?
Yes.
What?
Oh, I thought you were going to just let that go. North Oakland Transportation Authority.
Hey, you get an A+ today. Okay, the other meeting we're going to discuss is the Village of Oxford Planning Commission meeting. Rather interesting meeting.
Ah, yes.
And the NOTA meeting was rather short, kind of sweet, but short.
Sweet.
Sweet, how sweet it was. Okay, William Dunn, Bill Dunn, the supervisor of Oxford Township, of course, he is the chair that sits on this NOTA board. There's others that sit on it. Marge Payne, she's also a trustee with Oxford Township, and Mike McDonald, of course, is the president of Leonard.
It's a rather large board.
It is. I believe there are 7 members, though, on the board.
There's some auxiliary members, too, aren't there?
No, well, there are, but I've seen boards of that type up to 9 members, but their charter says 7, so that's what they're writing with. Okay, so they did the preliminaries. They did the pledge, of course, and covered the agenda, which was approved. Also, the minutes for last month were approved. So we're moving along pretty quick here, aren't we?
Yes.
Well, the meeting did go rather quickly. NOTA Director's Report. Now, Lynn Gustafson is the Executive Director of NOTA. And her report was that in June, the NOTA transportation was up in terms of ridership by 11%. Pretty good increase, huh?
Yeah. Oh, it's summer.
Yeah, it is summer. Working on elections also for information to get out to you various residents out there so you know what's going on, because they have a millage that's going to be on the election ballot this year.
So whether you're in the township or the village, vote on the millage.
Yes, vote for NOTA. Pretty good organization.
Good service,
Yep.
Bang for the buck, as they say.
It is for folks that have no means of transportation. It really has the ability to give them transportation out of their homes and to the doctor's offices and to get groceries, that kind of thing. So it's a good program. The other thing that Len talked about were participants in the Lone Ranger Parade that they're going to be involved in. And by the way, that Lone Ranger Parade is coming up, and it's August 4th.
That's right.
Yep. And that's actually next weekend, right? Okay, so you will see this program before the Lone Ranger Parade. So if you want to have fun with the kids, bring them out and watch the parade. New logo for NOTA. They're working on a new logo. And Len said that there's a situation with the colors of the buses that determine what concept is going to be used for the colors for the logo that they're thinking about designing.
Buses are white.
Buses are white, but there's other trimmings on them right now, as far as striping, that kind of thing, I think.
Okay.
Not polka dotted, but I think they're orange or something along that line. Could be yellow.
Neat.
Here's a rumor time.
What we're trying to do here is increase contrast.
We could do that, yes. So anyway, she's concerned with that, and they've got it with an individual that's very talented in terms of design, and hopefully they'll come forward with something that the NOTA board will accept. Also, she wanted to point out the next meeting that they're going to have with the NOTA board is going to be the 20th of September. So it's a ways out yet. This is being
skipping August?
Well, it looks like they are, at least for this meeting, okay? If not, we're going to say they are. You are. Okay. Anyway, April, let's talk about the bills. That's the next thing that came up. And the bills were in the amount of $19,094.04. Get out your checkbook. Okay.
Ain't mine.
Hey, why is your checkbook on top of those big, long, high stacks of yellow.
Accounts receivable.
See, okay. Will
Or
it
is it
ever
accounts
receive?
payable?
I doubt it.
I don't know.
Okay, financial report was received and filed. And any old business? Watch this. None. No old business. Public comment? None. No comment from the public. And then they also received and filed the monthly rider and mileage report,
Right.
which is
saw
a
that.
normal thing. Did you see that?
It's highly detailed.
Oh, okay. What did you discover in there? Anything particular?
They keep really good records.
Yeah, they do. I think Lynn Gustafson, I think her background is an accountant.
Yeah,
So,
that shows.
yeah, it does. Very detailed. Comments from the board. They had a discussion, a few comments, of course, about the millage coming up. You folks from Addison Township, Oxford Township, and, of course, Orion Township. Make sure that you vote.
Not to mention the villages.
And the villages as well. Leonard and, of course, Oxford Village. And anything else you want to add to that?
Nope, that's the scope of our area here.
That's the scoper.
But you threw in Lake Orion, so
Okay, all right. Well, they're all part of it. So now the next thing we're going to talk about is the Village of Oxford Planning Commission meeting. Now, Gary Douglas serves the chair as the chairperson for that particular board. Rose Bama sits on that board. And she's also the was nominated the chair for Zoning Board of Appeals for the village,
the ZBA.
ZBA. And Jack Curtis, by the way, we're going to talk about ZBA a little bit further down the line here because it's on the docket. Jack Curtis, of course, serves on this board. He's a trustee with the township. Does a great job, Jack does. Hello, Jack. And Maureen Helmuth serves on the board with the, she's also a council member with the village. Adam Johnson serves on that board. And Gary Deeg, who was absent at the time and was also excused from absence.
Okay.
And let's see, what else? Oh, it's a 7-member board, by the way, just in case you're wondering.
Got to break those ties.
Got to break those ties. But the point is that this planning commission hasn't actually met till, last time was in April. So it's been a while. And actually, Gary Douglas wanted to point this out that, hey, if you missed us, it's because we weren't there. So that's...
Which goes by way of saying, if I say there's going to be a planning commission or a ZBA meeting, check.
Yeah, you want to check on that. And he even makes things up, so,
Hey, I don't.
Oh, yeah, you don't.
It was fact at one time.
It was fact at one time, yeah. Yeah, it was. Okay, so anyway, they did the Pledge of Allegiance, of course. They had agreed to accept the agenda for July 17th. It was approved. Minutes for April 3rd were also reviewed and approved. Correspondence. No correspondence. Nobody wants to talk, sending letters, that kind of thing.
They don't call, they don't write.
They don't call, they don't write. What happened to them? I don't know. They're out there somewhere, but they just don't correspond. But if you folks want to correspond, send them a letter. Attention, Gary Douglas. By the way, there's one member absent on this board, not absent, but vacant. And that's one of the issues that's going to be discussed here as we continue when we come back right after this.
There's a lot of history to Oxford. Hidden around every corner, deep in every crack, and sometimes right in front of you, waiting to be discovered. If you just dig a little, you'll find the great history of our beautiful town. Welcome to Historic Oxford.
Welcome back to Minutes by Minute. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kinney.
And we are discussing what went on with the Village of Oxford Planning Commission meeting. Gary Douglas is the chair for that board. And so far
Currently an even number of people, so tiebreakers are
right. We just, off
help wanted.
off screen we were discussing that there's 7 members required and there's only 6 right now, but there's going to be a new appointment. And we'll talk more about that as we go along here. Right?
I wait with bated breath.
I thought you would. Okay. I was wondering what that was. Okay. Public hearing, none. No public hearings, no correspondence, of course, we pointed out. Old business. Hey, no old business. Okay. The next thing they did is new business. And new business had a number of items that they need to cover. The application for the seat for Planning Commission, and that individual that applied, her name is Leslie Prelex. Leslie Pelex. And she lives at 74 Denison Street. And she stood at the podium and addressed the board and said that she wants to serve her community. She's always had that interest. She is a museum director in Birmingham, Michigan at this time, but she does live in Oxford, the village of Oxford. She is familiar with proceedings and various activities and protocol, for commissions, that kind of thing. So she's not new to it's not the first day at the rodeo. She understands what's going on.
She knows Mr. Roberts.
She knows Mr. Roberts. Okay. History prevention or preservation. I would say prevention. Don't want to prevent history. You want to have history. History preservation of the buildings. She's certified, I guess, from Central Michigan.
What
in
building?
The advanced.
What building?
Historic preservation of the old buildings downtown. You need somebody that understands the architecture and what needs to be done. And for streetscape,
But
that kind of thing.
then you tread lightly on that historic landmark thing.
Yeah, you keep your feet off the landscape, is what you do. But anyway, so she's familiar, and she should be an asset in that area. Should be appointed for that reason. Private practice. She's a counselor in Oxford. Has her own business there as well. So she's a very active young lady. Experience with site plans and architectural designs as well. So.
She sounds quite qualified.
She is quite qualified, I thought, in listening to the presentation that she gave, and also fielding the questions that board members had for her.
Good.
She will, the next move, it was approved here for the Planning Commission. The next move is for her to go before the Village Council, who makes the ultimate decision, of course, if this person does sit on the board or not. I don't see any reason why this person wouldn't be placed there, though. She doesn't have a criminal record that we know of. She seems to be
Sorry about that.
an upright citizen, unlike somebody I know. But
You thought you knew.
I thought I knew. So anyway, I think it should be just a shoe-in, but we'll have to see. We'll follow what goes on at the Village Council. And speaking of rumors, I've heard a rumor that Sue Basarda, who is the chairperson, will not run again this year.
Oh, wow.
For
So
council.
that'll leave three.
That's a rumor.
That'll leave 3 positions open.
Right. 3. What are they?
Well, there's 2 right now, isn't there?
No, 1.
1. Mm-hmm. Are you sure?
Yep. Joe Frost is filling that position at this time.
Oh, is he?
Yep.
Is he going to?
He's going to run, yes.
Okay.
And that would be another rumor.
That was.
And by the way, both those rumors were established by this guy.
Well, that was up in the air yesterday, so I.
Yeah. No, he's definitely going to run. I saw his petition. It was signed. He's ready to go forward with it.
Well, does he owe you money?
No. But he did ask the question, is David Kenny still with the station? I said, yeah. He said, well, we won't hold that against you. I said, okay. So anyway, he's a pretty good guy. And he's with his expertise, he's a good guy to have on the board.
Yeah, he is.
The other people that serve on the Village Council, of course, is Maureen Helmuth and David
Bailey.
Bailey. Yep. And both those people have served long-term,
Right.
on the council.
And
run
they're
again.
both running again, aren't they?
They're both, well, they're not running now. Their terms have not expired.
But there's. Okay.
Susan Basardis has expired.
And who's the other person?
The other one was the one that Joe Frost fills in for. And that would be,
Are you sure? I thought there were 3.
no, 2. What's the look? And a little wrinkled forehead.
Time will tell.
Hey, trust me. Jot this down and check it out and put it on your yellow stack.
Boy, those are the words I like to hear. Trust me.
I'm pretty sure. Okay, the next issue that came up, by the way, she thanked the board, and so forth, and said she's looking forward to working with each of the individuals on the board.
No, great.
So, good, nice person. The next thing that came up was the amendment of the number of members that are going to be on the ZBA Board of Appeals. I don't know if you recall, but right now there are 6 members on the board. Should be 7, according to the way the charter
Got to
is.
break those ties.
But they can't find an extra person. So what they want to do is change it to 5 members on the Zoning Board of Appeals. Now, as I pointed out, Rose Bama is the chairperson, for the ZBA, and she serves on this board as well, on the Planning Commission. And she pointed out that it would make more sense to have 5 members as opposed to the 7 required, because it's easier to find people to fill those slots. And plus you can make decisions easier, with 5 people than you can for 7. But anyway, what came up is the question, why not make the resolution not less than 3 members and not more than 5 members? That way, in the future, it gives you the ability to adjust, to whatever you want to do, for the Zoning Board of Appeals.
As long as it's oddly stated.
Yeah. Now, the members of the Zoning Board of Appeals, they're placed on that board by the Village Council. In other words, they're appointed.
Right.
And that's how I got on there. I got the short straw, and there I was. So I do serve on that board as well. And so they were going to send it back to Village Council and get their input on this as to what approach they want to take for the charter to change. If they want to go with 5 or they want to go with a variable between 3 and 5. And I believe the number 7 is out from the conversation I heard. What do you think?
I think it's going to be what it's going to be.
Okay. Hey,
Whatever they decide,
that's
it's going
an
to be.
easy way out.
As long as it fits within the state regs.
Yeah, it does. It does. It's no problem. State-wide legislation allows it to happen. As long as the council agrees, it goes forward. But the Planning Commission has to make the initial effort, of course, to proceed with this and make the recommendation before the council. And so right now, they don't really want to make a recommendation until they get the feedback from the Village Council, determine, do you want a variable or do you want to go with 5? And once the council decides,
A variable?
go between no less than 3, no more than 5. That would be a variable.
Yeah, but it could be 4.
It could be 4.
But that's a problem.
Could be 3.5, and that'd be a real problem.
Well, why didn't they say 3 or 5?
Who's they? Oh, you mean the Planning Commission?
Yes.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that when we come back, right after this.
Do you love local sports? Whether it's Oxford High School or Parks and Rec, you can buy copies of each game. To purchase your copy, call us at 248-628-9658 or give us an email at manager@occtv.org or talk to us at the next game. Hopefully we'll see you there.
Welcome back to Minutes by Minute. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And I stand corrected.
Neener.
There are 3 people running for the Village Council seats. And that would be
Joe Frost.
Joe Frost, who is actually filling his slot right now, but will be
Maureen
running.
Helmuth.
Maureen Helmuth.
And an empty seat vacated by Sue Basardi.
Yep. And actually, the one I wasn't aware of was Helmuth. Not, her seat becoming vacant this year. I thought she had another year to go.
Oh, you of little faith.
I have hardly no faith. Not a little faith, no faith. Anyway, we'll have to see what happens here, won't we?
Yep.
You folks pay attention. That's pretty important,
that
for your
could change
village
the
folks.
whole landscape of the village council.
It could. Instead of trees, you have cactus. Or instead of cactus, you have trees, depending. Okay. Right. And we were just discussing that what may happen here, juggling things around, is that Eric Dolan may become, because he's a pro tem now, the president of the village council.
Maybe.
Maybe. Could be. Should be. Might.
All
could.
depends. All depends on the election.
All depends on the election. That would be you folks out there determining what goes down.
And the fact that they're these individuals are running for office doesn't mean there's not other people running for office.
And there are.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand there's 2 or 3 other people that are running on this. And do check it out. And,
That's what they call a race.
Yeah. And check out these folks as to who are running, for these seats and positions. If you want to see change, now's the time to do it. both in the village and, of course, in the township as well, or state level, right?
Right.
Okay. We're going to talk more about this too, of course, when the actual election takes place.
Well, it's a primary,
in
actually.
November. Yeah, this is a primary in August.
Right.
That'll determine who's going to be running in November and who's going to win.
Right.
Right? Okay. You folks pay attention to this race that's going on, and we have to find out who wins this race, right?
Right.
Right. Okay, let's then talk about they had a scheduled public hearing for August, let me see, for an amendment for the ZBA. Okay, that's what they're looking for this change in numbers of the people on the Zoning Board of Appeals.
I still say it should be 3 or 5, because that opens the door for 4 if you say up to.
And I think, knowing the village council, that's probably part of the discussion that they'll take.
Yeah.
You know, and I agree with you. I don't think you want even numbers. Hey, we have a standoff. What do we do now? Well, bring out the dual pistols, whoever survives. That's what'll win. Okay. Also, another subject that came up with the Planning Commission was outdoor sales. I don't know if you're aware that there's a few businesses in town for some time that have actually put their goods out front and leave them overnight.
True.
And have displays out there. Not to be confused with sidewalk sale, in which you put merchandise
Highly
out.
temporary. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you put your merchandise out and pull it in at
And,
night.
and generally, that sidewalk sale is usually a community activity.
That's right. And what happens is when you put goodies out there as part of your business, and it's around the clock, and you're not following the code, you know, the requirements of the village,
The ordinances.
the ordinances, you're non-conforming, in which case you're open to one of 2 decisions to be made. You could be determined a special district. In other words, you could apply for it. Doesn't mean you're going to get it, but you could apply for being a special use district.
Of course, having done it ahead of time doesn't improve your chances.
No, it doesn't. Absolutely does not. And option 2 would be to enforce the ordinance. Now, why was the ordinance put there in the first place? Helmuth, Commissioner Helmuth, she says, whoa, we have ordinances for a reason. They were put in place. People aren't concurring with them.
Who'd have thunk it?
Who'd have thunk it? I mean, everybody follows ordinances, don't they? That would be my opinion. Maybe not. So anyway, she says, well, it's high time that we start to, put out tickets, you know.
Don't
for
make
these.
rules if you don't aim to follow them.
Yep. And then the point came up as well, you know, let's start with that. Jack Curtis says, well, that's the right thing to do because, you know, if they're not following the ordinance, you need to file a citation with them.
Do we
And
have
if
an
they-
ordinance enforcement officer?
We do. And if they want to, if let's say the business wants to object to this, then they can take it further and apply for a special district permit. And which case, you know, it could be provided or it might not be. So anyway, if they want to make changes to the ordinance, it's their first step to do. It's not the requirement for the Planning Commission to make those changes or set those laws, right?
Right.
Okay. Sidewalk sales, okay, we discussed that and what they are. Discussion Michigan Economic Development, the MEDC. It's kind of like
Would
streets.
it be sidewalk sale or a continuing sidewalk display?
It would be considered a sidewalk sale under the ordinance. So as long as you put it out there and you bring it back in, it's considered a sidewalk sale
But if you leave it out?
in the letter of the word. Huh?
But if you leave
If
it
you
out?
leave it out, then you're in trouble.
Okay.
Can't do that. Okay, shouldn't do that. And I believe that actually Ace Hardware down there, the new building off Washington Street, they do have a special use district permit for that, but they still bring their things, their merchandise inside because, can you say theft? Lord forbid there would be any theft, but you know, they want to make sure it's secure. So that's what they do. They bring it inside. So anyway, another one is Redevelopment Ready Communities, REC. These are best practices, kind of like streetscape requirements and what we already have. They want to discuss this at the next meeting. The purpose behind these organizations is to make the village more attractive to investors.
Multiple organizations?
Right, but economic development that's already available, do a lot of that kind of thing already. So rather than duplicate it, Jack Curtis thought, well, maybe it's not anything that they should be interested in, but let's look further into it. So they said, let's table it.
Okay, but does this sort of target what's going to happen with MDOT coming into?
Has really nothing or very little to do with MDOT.
Okay.
Yep, there's a number of issues that have come up with that's coming up.
But it better be conforming with it.
Oh, it's got to be conforming with it. But MDOT will dictate a lot of those things.
Sure.
But some of the problems that Pete Schultz is having as the chairperson of DDA, and he serves on the M24 task force and meets with MDOT along with the village president. And he said that MDOT is complaining that, well, you don't need trees. You don't need trees along the street. And you don't need colored sidewalk areas, that kind of thing, because you've never had them before. And so they pulled out old pictures that go back to I don't know when, since Moses.
When they were fishing in the streets?
Yep, and it shows trees and it shows sidewalks that are coded.
Right.
So they're going to take this back to MDOT and say, hey, you guys, look here. And I think
we have historical precedents.
we do. And I think they'll have to push it, but that's one thing too. And we've been battling too to get a light down there.
Of course, there's a battle of how wide the street is going to be, and you can't move the buildings back.
You cannot move those buildings, that's for sure.
So
well, you could, but it'd be disastrous.
So there's a lot of push and pull there.
Right. Public comment. Robert Jolgoin on 23 South Washington. I don't know if you recall, but on Denison Street, they wanted to put it up a couple of units over there that are 3-story buildings. Remember we talked about that probably about 8-9 months ago?
Yeah. Are 3-story buildings allowed?
Well, I believe they are. They're going to check into it a little bit more in detail. But it's been a while since they've come back. Actually, the consultant, McKenna Associates, they said that this is just a introduction to the Planning Commission, that they're still interested in doing this, but it looks as though right now it would not be permissible
Are these
without the
residential
approval of a PUD.
Are these residential or commercial properties?
These are residential properties,
Okay.
not to be held for retail, that kind of thing.
All right.
Okay, and with that, that's pretty much what went on with the Planning Commission. So what's coming up?
Well, we do have some meetings, and they're in August. On August 6th at 7 o'clock, the Village of Oxford ZBA will be meeting. And on 8/8 at 7 o'clock, the Oxford Board of Trustees. I think that's Oxford, Board of Trustees, Township. And on 8/9 at 7 o'clock, the Oxford Township Planning Commission. And lastly, at 6 o'clock, the Addison Township Zoning Board of Appeals. And if it's a Zoning Board of Appeals or Planning Commission, check first.
Yeah, you want to make sure you show up and not be the only person there. Right. Okay, well, I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
Catch you next time right now, then and forever, minutes by minute.
And see you then, whenever that is.
Canine Stray Rescue does just that. Rescue stray dogs for new families. But they need your help. Become a volunteer at Canine Stray Rescue League of Michigan. Take dogs for walks, help them socialize with others, and help them get adopted. Fill out an application and help a family add a new member today.